Sushil is your name, right?
Yes, ma'am. Sushil
Okay.
Prasad.
Okay, that is your name. Sushil Prasad is your name or Sushil is your name?
Sushil Prasad.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Good
Good
afternoon, ma'am.
afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am. This is Bhavdeep Singh Krishnawat, and I am from Udaipur, Rajasthan.
Okay.
Good afternoon, ma'am. This is Meghna from Guwahati, Assam.
All right.
Good afternoon, ma'am. This is Divya from Udaipur.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Kunal from Rajkot.
All right.
Good afternoon, ma'am. This is Janvi from Jamnagar.
Okay.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I am Isha Dadhania from Rajkot.
All right.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Vibhusha from Jamnagar.
Okay.
Hello.
Anyone else? Okay.
Uh,
Nidhi.
yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. This is Nidhi Jain from Udaipur, Rajasthan.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am. I am Jay
Anybody?
Dakan from Rajkot.
Okay.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Hitesh Kriplani from Rajkot.
Okay. All right. So I suppose each and every one of you who was present in the session has introduced yourself. Nice meeting you all. I guess there is one new member, Yash.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Sorry for being late, but
no,
yeah.
it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. Welcome to the session. My name is Professor Vausha Masani, and I shall be taking your data structure. Okay. Now I need to introduce you all with what all the subject contains. Okay, and how are we going to approach with this particular subject? So every one of you, if you are not comfortable with English, I can go with Hindi also and Gujarati also, but I'll keep my primary language as English. Okay.
Okay,
Once you
ma'am.
see my screen, kindly acknowledge. Okay, my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So see, this is the PPT which you might have seen in your orientation time also. Okay, this PPT is particularly for your data structure subject. Okay, the subject code is 01CE0301. Okay, and I am going to take the course for you people this entire semester. Now, what does this PPT has? It has the teaching scheme, your course outcomes, the program outcomes, and the experiments and the lab work, which we are going to cover in the lab sessions. Okay. See, this is the total teaching scheme. Okay, being a core course of your discipline of your computer engineering AIBD, it is the type of course is core, and what you need to go through this course is the basic knowledge or say the computer programming knowledge in C language. Okay, that is prerequisite. So I hope each and every one of you are polished with your programming in C concepts. If not, then also it's fine. We'll do the brushing up and we'll commence the course. Okay, so then the teaching scheme, the theory part is actually 4 and practical part is 2, but as we are in the online session right now, so the theory part is 3 So there will be 3 lectures, okay, 1 hour, and 1 lab session of 2 hours. Okay. Total credit of this subject is 5. Your theory marks are divided into 50, 30, and 20. 50 marks is your 30 marks is your SEM. Okay, 50 is your external, and internal 20 marks. I'll let you know how it is going to get evaluated. Okay. Previously there was a course era certification, but right now just keep this internal 20 marks for pending. I'll let you know how we are going to evaluate the internal 20. Okay. Next, in your tutorial practical marks, you have 2 things. One is your Viva, which is of 25 marks, and the term work means the lab work which you are going to submit. That is of 25 marks. Now, owing to the present times, that is online, we don't know when we are going to meet each other. So till that time, how you are going to submit your lab practicals? I will create one Google Classroom, okay, and the task will be assigned in that, where I'm going to assign you the task to submit the practicals. So you are going to submit me the practicals. How you are going to submit me? You are going to write down the practicals which we are performing here in the lab sessions. Okay, you have to write the program. You have to write the output of that program, scan those pages, convert into PDF, and upload in your classroom. Okay, this thing is to be maintained by all of you. You have to write down in book or paper. The stationery is now available, so you can easily maintain a book, or you can also write in your assignment papers. I don't have any issue. It is your choice. Those practicals which you have written along with the output are to be scanned. Okay, make one single PDF and upload it in the classroom when I assign you the task. Okay, so in total it is 150 marks. Fine. Now these are the targeted 6 course outcomes. What you are going to do after you have gone through this course. So what you are supposed to be having the caliber. So first is you should be understanding the first course outcome. You should have the understanding to differentiate between linear and non-linear data structures. Okay, in our theory we are going to see what is linear data structures, what are non-linear data structures. So after you have completed this particular course, what you should be able to understand is the difference between the linear and non-linear data structures. Okay, then comes the application part, that once you have understood this particular subject, then what are things you should be able to be do it or perform, you can say practically. So you should be able to implement the data structures such as your array, stack, queue, linked list, and tree. Okay, you should be able to perform the traversal methods in your trees and graphs, that is depth first search traversal, or you can say breadth first search. So searching traversals in your trees and graphs. Okay, that you should be able to do it. You should be able to implement the sorting and searching techniques. These are the sorting searching techniques: bubble, selection, insertion, quick, merge. Okay, binary search, sequential search, everything is going to get covered in this particular course. Okay, and at the end you should be able to apply this. Then there is hash functions. Hash functions is a new concept which you are going to learn here. You might have not heard about it in your C programming, but here it is these things you might have heard: arrays and stacks, even the sortings. Okay, but this hash functions you are going to get introduced. What are your hash functions, why they are useful, how they are maintained. Okay, and there are some issues in the hash tables, so it might happen that there is some collisions. Okay, so how can you resolve that? So collision resolutions, you are going to see it. Okay, and open addressing and chaining is the name of the method to resolve the collisions. So you're going to perform that also once you finish the course. So all these CO2, CO3, 4 and 5 are the application part of the course. Okay, and at the end, that is course CO6, what you need to evaluate, you should be able to decide the effective and the efficient data structure for a given problem. Okay, that is the main aim of your CO6. Then there is your program outcomes. There are total 12 program outcomes. Okay, out of which 7 are mapped. Okay, so PO1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and PO12. Those are getting mapped. Okay, so if I tell you in a summary of all these 7 program outcomes, is that you after learning this particular course, what practically the knowledge of yours should be, that you should be able to apply the knowledge of data structures to solve a given problem. Okay, so that is what the engineering knowledge is going to cover. You should be able to analyze exactly what the problem is about and which is the most efficient data structure. So that is what your PO2 is, problem analysis. Okay, you should be able to develop efficient solutions. Solutions can be of any type. Okay, I might say that the solution given by Jay is also right, and the solution given by Arpit is also right, or I can say solution given by Bharti is also right. But which one is the most efficient will take the price. Okay, so you should be able to make your solutions as efficient as possible based on the problem. Fine. So that is how you are going to design and develop. So that is your PO number 3. Fine. PO number 4 is about the research work. That before how you are going to know that your solution is the most efficient one for the given constraints, or say for the given condition, then you need to do some research work, right? You need to construct some cases. So that is what PO4 is. All right, then it is PO5, that is modern tool usage. Just wait a minute. Okay, sorry for that interruption. Okay, so we were at PO number 5, that is your modern tool usage. Here we are going to use, obviously, we are right now, I'm not keeping it as one C compiler. I use Dev C++ for the practical sessions. You can use Code Blocks or Dev C++ or Visio, or even there are lots of online C compilers available if you don't want to install any software. So those are the different modern tool usage. Okay, then engineer and the society, again, why are you giving this solution? So that you can be helpful to the society professionally and as well as in social manner too. So that is your PO number 6. And PO12, that is your lifelong learning. So that means you are not just learning this particular course to pass this semester. This is the base. That's why it is a core course. Okay, if you are clear with your data structures, you will be clear with the further concepts which are based on the data structures. Okay, so your data structures is a building block. Fine. So that's why it is a lifelong learning is mapped in PO12. Okay. Going to your experiments, there are total 15 programs in your practical list. So you have 15 practicals. You have to implement those using your C programming language. Okay. I hope no doubt in this particular explanations. No doubt in till here, right?
Yes, ma'am, no doubt.
Okay. So see, this is your syllabus. Okay. I will upload this particular copy in your e-content. You can see it anytime you want. The teaching scheme and the examination scheme, I've already explained it to you. The topics which this course is having is the first unit is your introduction to data structures, where you are going to get introduced with the various types of data structures, okay, the linear and non-linear data structures, why data management concepts are so important for you to learn. Okay, so that is the introduction chapter. The second chapter is, targeting only the linear kind of data structures and how you are going to represent them. I mean, logically, and how you are going to work with them in a practical manner. So the unit number 2 is targeting just linear data structures, their representations, and what are the operations which you can do with those linear data structures. Okay, so that is what your chapter 2 is going to target. In chapter number 3, you are targeting the non-linear data structures, that is your trees and graphs. Okay, you are going to understand the traversal techniques, kinds of trees, kinds of graphs, and how they are getting used, okay, in different algorithms. That is what unit number 3 is targeting, the non-linear data structure. Unit number 4 is targeting sorting and searching techniques. Okay, so once you are clear with your linear data structures and non-linear data structures, you are going a step ahead. Okay, you are going to sort those using these various kinds of sorts. You are going to search inside those data structures using sequential and binary searches. Okay, then it is hashing and collision. It is not collision here, it is collision actually. So hashing and collision. So you are going to see what is hashing, what is hashing table, why hashing is being used, what are the functions, and you are going to understand how collision is occurring, how you can remove that collision in the hash tables. So that is what these unit number 5 is going to cover. Okay, so total there are 5 units in your theory part. The reference book are shown onto your screen. If you want me to zoom, I can zoom it. These are your 4 reference books. If you want to note down, please note the names. You can refer any of these 4 books. Kindly note this down. I'm waiting for 2 minutes. Note down the name, author name, and the publication. Done, everyone? Kindly answer yes or no. Done?
Yes, ma'am, done.
Okay. So moving to the practical part. Okay. See, this is your list of experiments. Total 15 experiments. Okay. The first one which we are going to target is your introduction to pointers, call by value and call by reference. That is what we are going to target. Now see, as this is the very first lab session, so I am going to tell you here, in our labs, I am not going to show you the program directly, okay? Or I am not going to, tell you that, okay, write this line, then this line, then this line. I'll explain you the concept. We will discuss the algorithm wherever it is needed, okay? And I will assign you the task and I will monitor in between the session. I'll ask you to present the screen. So I will monitor as you are approaching the task. At the end, before ending the session, I shall explain you the program, okay, one by one. Clear with the method how we are going to go in this DS subject? I shall explain you the concept. I shall explain you the algorithms also, wherever it is needed for algorithm case, okay? I will tell you what steps you have to do, but I'm not directly going to show you exactly how you are going to write the program. That part first you have to do, okay? I'll ask you to share. I will observe what each one of you is doing, and before ending the session, like 25 minutes or 30 minutes before the end of the session, I will discuss the solution from my end, okay? So it is easier for you. This will help you to develop your logic, okay? So we are going for this first practical. If time permits, we shall also target the second one, but that is if time permits, okay? Let's see for the first one first. Okay. Everybody aware with call by value and call by reference, the terms?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Yash is aware. What about others?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Div is also there. Another students?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Bharti, Nidhi, okay. Ritesh also, right. Alright, so I guess most of you? Fine. So can anyone voluntarily, I'm not picking any student, voluntarily tell me what do you understand by call by value, the term?
Ma'am, may I?
Yes, please.
Ma'am, whenever the concept of the function arrives, then we need to call a function like or it is called calling function, right? So we can call the function by its address also and also by its value.
No, I'm
So
just telling by value.
okay, by value means we are like by name we are calling, and by reference means we are giving the address as a place of name.
Correct. So see, in your functions, as Yash mentioned, there are two ways to pass your arguments. Okay, one is call by value and another is call by reference. Now see, in arguments also there are two types, formal arguments and actual arguments. Are you aware about these two terms? Formal arguments and actual arguments?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Nidhi, can you tell me what is actual argument? Okay, she left the meeting, I suppose. Anybody else who knows what is formal arguments and what are actual arguments?
Ma'am, formal arguments are those which are mentioned in the function definition,
Correct.
and the actual one are called at the time of the calling that function, are mentioned at the call time.
Yes. So see, that is in your call by value, we are going to target first the call by value. So what is happening in call by value? The value of your actual arguments, okay, it is getting passed to your formal arguments. Fine. And if you have any change regarding your formal arguments, it is not going to affect the actual values. Fine. So in that particular function, when you are calling the function and you're passing your actual arguments to the formal arguments, and whatever computation is happening, it will have the scope in that particular function only. If you are coming out of that function, going back again in your main, then if any changes are happening, then the actual arguments are not getting affected. They will be having the same original values. Okay. So that is what the second point is trying to tell you, that any change made in the formal arguments does not affect the actual arguments. Fine. When the function is called, it does not affect the actual contents of the actual argument. Fine. So pictorially, which are your actual arguments or say parameters and the formal parameters? As you have correctly answered, if you can see here, invoke call the method. Okay, I have number 1 and number 2 of integer type with values 25 and 47, and when I'm calling the add function and I'm passing number 1 and number 2, so those are my actual parameters passed. Fine. And when I'm going to the method definition, there I have mentioned integer x and integer y. Okay, so two kinds of my integer data types. So those formal parameters. Okay, and I'm doing some functions like return x. Okay, and then if I have a main, I have not mentioned here any main here, but if I had any main, the control would have gone back to that main part. Okay, and so on, the code must have executed. So you need to know about the two argument types when you are, or you can say you should be clear with the two argument type concepts when you are targeting or say dealing with call by value and call by reference. That is your actual arguments and formal arguments. Okay, this is the formal definition which I have kept. The arguments which are passed to the function during a function call are called actual arguments, and the arguments we use during a function definition, okay, the arguments which are getting used during a function definition are known as formal arguments. Okay, so these are the, you can say, the textual definition of your actual argument and formal argument. Fine. So can we just go by the practical method of call by value? Now see, as I told you, I am using Dev C++ as my online compiler. Okay. If you are new to Dev C++ environment, this is the, the IDE. You can use code blocks. You can use Dev C++. You can use the code Visio. Okay, Visio code is also there. Online compilers are also there. If you are comfortable with online compilers also, then it is purely and totally your choice. Okay, if you are new to Dev C++, this is the IDE. How you can create a project? Go to File, New, Project, select your language. It is ideally C and C++. C project is there. What I want to do a console application. Okay. So, and give the project name. Fine. You can create a separate folder or directly you can save it here. And it is going to present you with the main.c file, okay, with some already written primary code. That is your libraries include stdio and stdlib and your main. You can remove these if you want, okay. And you can start writing your code here. Now, how are we going to go for call by value? So for that, I want you guys to implement a swap program. Okay. So you can use three integers. Okay, three variables, not integers. Three variables. I know you can do it with two variables also, but I want you to do with three variables. Okay, and apply the concept of call by value. First, call by value in the swap function. Okay. Everybody clear what you have to do? You have to create a swapping program. I hope each and every one of you know the logic for your swap using three variables. Yes, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
By
if it is difficult, then do let me know. I'll explain the logic.
using a temporary variable.
Correct. You have to use a temp variable, and using those three variables, you have to swap two values. The type of value, it is on you. You can take integer type, you can take float, double. I'll prefer to take integer type, or character is also fine if you want to take character type also. So implement a swapping program, keep a swap function, and you have to implement that swap function by call by value. Okay, I'm giving you a few minutes of time. Let's say it is 12:40, actually 12:39, but fine, 12:40, 12:40 to 12:50. Okay, it is 12:40 now. I'm giving you 10 minutes to prepare one full program, and then I'll ask you people to share the screens. Okay, start working. I hope everyone is clear with the instructions, right? If you have any doubt, you can ask me. I'm here only. Also, I would like to tell you that do add one printf statement in your main that before swap. Okay, and when you are calling your swap function, then inside that swap function, do not forget to write a printf statement after swap. Take care of these things. Anybody completed? Yes, anyone finished with the program?
Ma'am, doing. Wait for only 2-3 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Deep, right?
Divya, ma'am.
Okay, Deep. Can you please present your screen? I'm stopping my presentation from here.
Yes, ma'am.
Rest of the people can continue. Okay. So you have taken the value of A and B and you have scanned it. And before swap, the values are getting printed, calling the swap function. So going inside a swap function, integer A and B, okay. So you took a temp variable, swap the values inside the function. Okay. Yes, absolutely correct. Thank you for presenting. Anybody? Nidhi. Okay, Nidhi, please present the screen. Okay, you have done it in one program only. Okay. Yes, logically it is absolutely correct. But Nidhi, your program is a static program. Okay. You are not taking the values from the user. So try to make it dynamic. Take values of X and Y from the user. So it will make your program dynamic. And this swapping logic, keep it in a function called swap. Okay, then the logic and the answer is correct, but it is not according to the call by value which we want to do. Okay, so modify the program. Thank you for presenting. You can stop. Anybody else finished with the program? If you can and present the screen. Parallelly, even I am writing the program. Okay. Use of AX. Okay.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
Is it visible?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I think
Swap
some
function.
syntax.
Yeah.
What is the error? Because I have forgotten the little bit syntax of the C language.
It's okay. Fine. Just let me go through the warning first. What warning it is giving you in the console?
3 warnings generated. First is related to line number 12, not 1012, but I think.
Okay, the spelling of scanf is wrong. It is SCAN,
Oh,
not
yeah.
SACN.
I think this comma is needed here.
No, it's okay if you don't.
Okay. Succeed. Okay. How to give an input on mobile?
This is okay, an online compiler. Fine. Can't you just write there somewhere? There is no space.
like a space by
Space is into enter your inputs.
no. I think I should copy all the code on other compilers. Okay, I will do
Okay, no
save it
problem.
again.
Anybody else completed? Apart from 3 students? Okay, Bharti, yours is done. Can you present the screen? Bharti, please present the screen.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, actually, I have done normally. I forgot actually to do, while
With
call by
the help of a
value
function.
method. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
no problem. It's okay. Modify the code.
Yes, ma'am. I'm doing the same.
Okay. Okay, I'm presenting my screen for the people who are doing or have finished doing, and due to some of the other reason they cannot present the screen. Kindly verify. My screen is visible?
Yes,
Students?
ma'am.
Okay. I hope it is yes for everyone, not just Bharti.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So see, it is a quite simple program. Swap a function using your 3 variables. Fine, and you need to call a swap function with the help of call by value. So what I have done is, I am going for program to swap the value using the call by value. Okay. As many screens I saw, so I would like to advise all of you that keep a habit of writing the comments. Okay, wherever you feel like. For example, I felt that I should tell the programmer that what I'm doing here, I'm taking input from the user. So I went and wrote the comments. And this is not particularly, I'm telling you, for DS subject or say C programming. In any of the programming, whether it is Python, .NET, C, C++, whatever program you are implementing in whichever language, you should have habit of writing the comments. Okay, so that is the first thing. Second thing which I observed, was some of the students had written their code like this. Okay, this is how the code was written. This is not the correct method. You should be aware with the tabs. Okay, so integer AB. Yash, please mute yourself. So this is how you should be writing. Give tabs, okay? Necessary tabs wherever it is required. So integer AB, printf, taking inputs from the user. Okay. Scanf, I am taking the inputs and calling those values from A and B. Okay. So this is my call by value. Directly I am calling those integers. So A and B. Fine. The function call by value function I have defined here out of my main. Okay. Again, I am defining two integer type variables. You can write here x and y also. It is not necessary that you are writing a and b only. You can write x, y. You can write integer Kausha, integer Arpit. Okay, then also it is fine. They are just your naming conventions. Alright, so it is your choice. Whatever you want to write here particularly. In call by value. Okay. Now we are taking a temporary variable, so integer temp, just to keep my user aware what exactly is happening on the screen. So I have written a few printf statements, okay, using a call by value function before swapping. So my values of a and b were this, okay. So those values are passed here. So directly they are going to get printed here as I have not done any operations or say logic. Here the logic for swapping is occurring. Okay, I don't need to explain you this as each and every one of you are very well aware of with it. So logic for swapping, and after swapping I have again given some few printf statements. Okay, in Dev C++, the shortcut is F11, or you can directly click here and the program will start running. All right. Yash, please mute yourself. Yash, if you can listen to me properly, please mute yourself. Okay. So see, my console is running. Okay, this is my output window. So it is prompting me to enter two values as I have made the program dynamic. So I'm entering two values, let's say 300 and 400. Okay, so these are my two values. So using my call by value function, before swapping, value of A is 300, value of B was 400. After swapping, value of A is 400 and value of B is 300. So this is your call by value function. Now this same thing you are supposed to be doing with call by reference. Okay. Wait. You only do. What I want you to do is create one more function call by reference. Okay. And do the same swapping by call by reference function. I showed you the call by value. Okay, you can verify the function if you want. That is, this is your call by value function. For those who have finished call by value, start programming in the same file. Okay, don't go and create another file. In the same file only, in the same name, create one more function call by reference and do the swapping using call by reference. Once you are finished, please do let me know so that I see what you have coded. Okay, Divya, please present the screen. Okay. Okay, just one suggestion. The code is absolutely correct. Just one suggestion is that in your void main, the very last statement in your main, that is printf, after swapping a is equals to percentage d and b is equals to percentage d, do mention that it is in main function. So you can write after swapping inside main function. Okay. Fine. Okay. Thank you. You can stop presenting. Jay, please present the screen. Yeah, one more thing, Divya. What you had done was I suppose, I guess you removed that previous call by function. Keep that call by function intact as it is, okay? And call by reference function also. Okay, Joy, let me see your program now. Okay, you have globally declared the reference function, okay? Yes, it is correct. Okay. Anybody else?
Ma'am, done but not giving desired output. May I share?
Sure, sure. Let me see what you have done.
Ma'am, it's my program, and let me run this. So, like this way, it is not giving.
Okay, it is giving you some garbage value.
Although I have
The
done.
program logic is correct, but in your main function you have messed up. Go to your main function. There integer a comma b equal to swap xy. It is not correct. You just need to write swap xy. Remove the part. Okay, just write there swap xy. Semicolon.
Yes.
The variable names.
Still, it is non-swapped value showing.
Okay, go to your swap function. Yes. See, this is what I was trying to say, that it is a call by value function, right? So whatever you are swapping will be
It is
effective
only
inside your
applicable for
swap.
the
Yeah, it is
that function.
only applicable or say effective in your swap function only. Once you come back to your main, it is going to return you the original values, that is 7 and 8. Okay.
Yes.
That's
And
why we are moving to call by reference. Okay,
yes,
that is the purpose and use of call by reference. Okay, Yash, you can stop presenting so that I can ask Vibhusha. And okay, Vibhusha, please present the screen. Okay. Call by reference is there, fine. Before swapping the first values, okay, 3 and 6, and then it is 6 and 3. Okay. But you have removed the call by value function, I suppose. So include that in this particular file only. Okay, Sushil, let me see what you have done. Present the screen. Enter the two numbers. Okay. You are okay. Correct. Sushil Prasad, if you are not speaking, then you can just mute yourself, because if you are speaking, then I cannot understand anything. Okay. Run the program. I cannot see your console output. If it is displaying it to you, I cannot see it. Sushil, you can write in the chat. I am not able to see the console output if you are running the program. Sushil Prasad, are you going to present again, or should I move forward? Okay, then I'm waiting for you. Please present the screen. Okay. See, for all those who have created two different programs of call by value and call by reference, you have to make only one program. Okay, in one program you are going to create two functions for swapping. One is by call by value and another is call by reference. Okay, so let me just present the screen. Once you see my screen, just say yes or no, okay, that you can see it or not. For those who are left behind or still doing, you can verify the code. Those who have already done, please see that is there any difference between your code and my code in terms of formatting. Then please do the necessary changes. Okay. Screen visible, I suppose, to each and every one of you. Okay. See, I am having both the functions in my same file. Okay. Call by value also and call by reference also. Okay. Now see, what was the problem with call by value? Why we shifted to call by reference is that if you heard mine and Yash conversations, then there itself I told you the reason why we are switching over to call by reference. Actually, what is happening when you call this call by value and passing A and B values here, those values are passed into these formal arguments. Okay. You are performing some logic or say the operations on those arguments, and you are giving the output in the called function itself. Now, once this function is called, it is again going to go back to your main. Okay, and inside that main, if I write here printf values of A and B, okay, percentage D, percentage D. If I'm going to write here, I'm going to access the values of A and B again, then this particular printf statement is going to print the values which are originally given by the user. Okay, it is not going to give you the swapped values. Why? Because it is called by value, and all the changes are happening here in this particular function. Once the function gets over, the control is to your main. The values which you are accessing here are now these original values, which is your actual parameters. Okay. So to overcome this, we got introduced by call by reference, where we are passing the memory addresses, not passing the the values or say the variables. We are passing the memory address variables. Okay. So that's why it is called by reference. And what is happening in your call by ref or call by address? You are passing these pointers. This is pointer A and pointer B, okay, which are having the memory addresses of your A and B variables. Okay. So you are manipulating the memory addresses, and using those memory addresses, you are changing the values which are stored in that memory address. Okay, so again, see, for the sake of my user, I have given some printf statements so that the user can differentiate what actually is happening on the screen. Okay, here the same logic for swap I have written. Okay, but this time using the pointers. Fine. After this, after the swapping, the values I've got, I'm printing using the memory addresses. Okay. Now see the difference. After executing all these steps, the control is again going to go back to your main function. Okay, here. Now as right now there is no code to be executed, the program is going to get exited. Okay, but if I write here the same thing, let's see the difference. Okay, one is here. Another, again I'm going to print out the value of A and B. Okay, so let's see the difference. What happened? Wait. Conflicting types. Okay. It is void here, called by ref. Previous implicit declaration of call by value. Undefined reference called, okay. Okay, see, so my main has started to run and I'm prompted to enter two values, let's say 300 and 400. Okay. Now see what happened. It scanned, it went to call by value. Okay. So value of A is 300 initially and value of B is 400. After it swapped, values of A is 400 and value of B is 300. Okay. Now see, again it came back here inside the main. Till here, till this part where my arrow is pointing, it was inside your call by value. Then it came back again into your main function. It executed this particular printf statement, values of A and B. So see, it is again 300 and 400. Okay. Again, it is 300 and 400. It came back to its original places. It went and executed this particular function. It called this function, call by ref. So inside that function, again, I have given the statement using call by address function. Before swapping, it was 300 and 400. After swapping, the values are 400 and 300. Again, after ending or say executing that particular rough code, the control came back again inside your main. Inside your main, the next line to be executed is this printf statement. So it again executed it. So values of A and B. So see, now the values of A and B are 400 and 300. Why this happened? Because we have manipulated the values directly using the memory addresses. Okay. That was not the case when you were doing the call by value. You were just manipulating the formal arguments. Here you are manipulating the memory addresses, okay, and with the help of that you are changing completely the values. So this is the difference between call by value and call by reference. Fine. So that is what the PPT is going to tell you. What your call by reference is doing, it copies the address of your argument into your formal parameter. Okay, inside the function, your address of that variable is getting used. Okay, and the actual argument or say the values are getting manipulated. Fine. So it is going to affect not only to the passed parameter, but also it is going to affect the actual values, or you can say your actual parameters. And you are using the pointers to access or you can say to pass the value by call by reference. So if we see in a pictorial manner, what actually it is happening. See, this is the comparison. Let's say you have a hot chocolate, okay, mug or coffee mug or tea. Okay. Now in pass by reference, when you are creating a copy and you are filling up the cup in the function fill cup, then contents are getting filled in the parameter which is passed in the fill cup and the actual cup. Okay, if you can see, the contents both are getting filled here. Okay, and in pass by value, what it is happening, only the parameter here, the formal parameter or say the copy of that cup is getting filled. No changes are occurring here inside the original one. Clear the difference? Students, the difference is clear to each and every one of you? Okay, I have an answer from Sushil Prasad. What about others?
Yes, ma'am. And ma'am, can we say that the address value or reference value for one variable is unique for the whole program?
Yes.
Okay. So same named variable will have a different address value according to their scope. Like in like for x and y we are defining in one function, and for other function we are defining with the same name. So both will have. Is it feasible? First of all, is it feasible to define both same variable named in other function?
See, it is naming convention wise it is okay. Like for example, I previously also told that here you are taking integer a and b, okay? Then if you are taking integer a and b here also it is fine. You can take
Yes.
here x and y also. Okay, so in terms of naming conventions it's fine.
Yes.
But if you are talking in a manner that here also you are taking let's say same integers, okay, and those integers again you are taking here somewhere for a different kind of a function, then it is not okay.
So
It will overlap.
yes, but so reference value for the both a and b in both the function is changed, right? Like with same name.
I didn't get you. In call by reference you are asking?
No. What I'm asking
Then?
is we are defining a variable a and b in main function, and after that also after again we are defining variable in other function with same name a and b. So
okay.
we then we can't say that both variable are same, right? And because their reference value is changed, is it right or not?
The type of argument is changed. Okay, reference value is not changed. Actually, the type of argument is changed. Here, a and b, when you are calling it inside this particular function, they are your actual parameters. Okay, and when you are calling a and b here again, though the name are same, variable names are same, but here they are not your actual parameters. They are your formal parameters.
Okay.
Fine.
Yes.
That's why I cleared the concept of actual parameters and formal parameters before going for this call by value and call by reference.
So if we are defining any variable in main function, so the scope of that variable is whole for the program. It is.
No, if
or-
you want the scope for whole of the program, then you can write here globally, like this.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
But if you are defining it inside your main function or say any user defined function, then scope of that particular variable is limited to that function only, unless and until it is defined here globally.
Yes. So by method of passing the calling by value, the value is not changing because the reason of the argument, right? Not of the scope of the variable.
Correct.
Right.
Because you are manipulating only the arguments. Okay, you are not doing anything. You are just dealing with the copy. That's it. That is what it is happening. See here. In pass by value, you are just dealing with the copy, and all the manipulations are done in the copy itself. But here in pass by reference, as you are accessing directly the memory address, you can see this dots. So it is not actually the copy, it is the original only, you can say. In a way, you can say the original variable only. But as we are dealing with call by reference, we are manipulating using the memory addresses. So whatever changes you are doing in your formal arguments, in the case of pass by reference, those changes are getting reflected in your actual arguments also.
Okay. So There is not an issue of the scope, but issue of the. Okay, now I get it.
Fine. So with this, we are completing your first practical. Okay. Introduction to your pointers, call by value, call by reference. Fine. We still have 25 minutes. I'll introduce you with the dynamic memory allocation. Okay, and we'll continue the lab session for DMA, malloc free, in the next lab session. Right now, I'm just going to introduce you that why do we need malloc free, what is dynamic memory allocation. Fine. So coming to the concepts of dynamic memory allocation, just tell me, what do you understand by these three words? Dynamic memory allocation. What do you understand by it?
Memory is allocated at the runtime.
Exactly. Memory is allocated at runtime. Dynamically, you can say the memory allocation is happening. So as many memory you want, the compiler is going to give that many memory. Fine. So this is the, you can say, the subjective or book definition that dynamic memory allocation is a memory management technique, okay, in which your memory allocation is happening at runtime. Not only your memory allocation, but memory deallocation also happens runtime. So there are some specific functions, okay. The specified functions for memory allocation, it is malloc, calloc, okay, realloc, and free function is for memory deallocation. Okay, so in total there are 4 functions of your DMA: malloc, calloc, realloc, and free. And what are the advantages? The memory allocation and deallocation is done runtime. You don't have to take care about the memories. Okay, you don't need to know how many amount of memory is there in your processor. Like, you can directly implement the program. To worry that what is the amount of memory. Everything is going to get handled by your malloc, calloc. Okay, no wastage of memory and no shortage of memory. I'll show you this with an example. No wastage and no shortage, both. Okay, so which library function is responsible? That is your stdlib.h is the library function which is responsible. So when you are implementing the dynamic memory DMA programs, you have to include stdlib.h. Okay. So let's take an example here. See, you know the basic data structures, okay? The integer type and float type. I'm pretty much sure, as you are aware with the concepts of C, so you are aware with what is integer, what is float, what is double. At least this basic you must be knowing, correct? Yes, students, correct? Fine. So see, here I have taken one example. I have a variable called roll number, which is of type integer. Okay. So inside your memory, a 2 byte of memory block, it is going to get reserved for this variable roll number. Now again, see, it depends upon your compiler also. If your compiler is of modern type, it is going to assign 4 by 2. Okay. But in your older compilers, it is going to assign 2 byte of memory block. Fine. If it is float, for example, float percentage, then 4 byte of memory block is getting allocated for that particular variable. Fine. Let's say we are dealing with arrays. Okay. Then integer roll number 10. So 10 memory blocks getting allocated, or you can say reserved, and 2 into 10, so 20 bytes. Okay, if it was 4 byte, then 4 into 10, so 40 byte of total memory chunk, or you can say memory block, is getting reserved for this particular array. Okay, so that is what a static memory allocation is. You are directly giving here the size, roll number 10. Okay, but there is some issue, correct? That's why we are moving for dynamic memory allocation. So let's see what is the issue. Let's say I have this small code, okay, where I am printing the number of students based on their roll numbers. Okay, so from the user I am taking number of students. Let's say user entered of 5. Okay, so 5 times my for loop is going to run, and I'm going to take 5 roll numbers for 5 students. Okay, so when code is getting executed, it is going to go integer roll number 10. Okay, so you can see here 2 into 10 bytes of memory block reserved for roll number. Now in the output, let's say the user has given number of students as 3. Okay, so what it is going to do, it is going to take up 3 roll numbers. Let's say I entered 10, 15 and 8. So 10, 15 and 8 are going to get stored in the memory which is reserved by integer roll number of size 10. Now you see the remaining 7 blocks, 3 blocks are getting used, but the remaining 7 blocks are wasted. Why? Because I don't need them, correct? But still I have reserved these 7 blocks, so it is a wastage of memory, right? Okay, let's see some reverse scenario. Let's say that user enters the number of students as 60. Let's take an example of a school. Initially, when I opened the school and when I coded a program to take roll numbers from the teacher, I didn't knew that how much strength I'm going to have. So I kept statically roll number array of size 10. Now, as the time passed, my school flourished. So the number of students increased. Okay, and the teacher who doesn't know anything about this programming went and entered number of students as 60. Now you see the problem is there is no enough memory to accommodate the data of all the 60 students. It is going to accommodate data of 10 students, right? Because 10, you can say the size is 10. Okay, but what about the rest of the others? You are going to lack the memory, correct? So to avoid these two things, to avoid lack of memory and to avoid wastage of memory, we went with the concept of dynamic, from static memory allocation to the dynamic memory allocation. Okay, why? Because you cannot change the size of the allocated memory if you are going in a static way, correct? So we introduced to your dynamic memory allocation, where we are using malloc, calloc, realloc and free functions. Okay, let's see this one function, then we can wind up this session. What is your malloc? It is a function which allocates the memory block on runtime. Okay, anybody aware with the syntax of malloc? You might have used it in your previous semester. Anybody aware? Even if you are not, don't worry, I'm going to show
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Okay, can you write it in the chat?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. pointer equal to data type star n star size of data type. Okay, one of the correct method. See, as I've already mentioned, you have to include the header file while dealing with your dynamic memory allocation programs. Okay, so hash include stdlib.h. Okay, this is the general syntax. Okay, ptr is the pointer variable. Ptr type is the data type of the pointer. Okay, and this bracket ptr type star, this bracket is nothing but typecasting. Okay, why? Because your malloc is going to return a value of void type. Okay, malloc size in byte, so you need to typecast. So see, it returns a pointer of type void that has to be typecasted, this malloc, and malloc is going to assign the size, or say the memory chunk, which is mentioned here in this parenthesis, in between these parentheses. Okay, you can give it in a static manner also, as you gave in arrays, integer array size 10. Okay, you can give it a number also. You can ask the user to enter the size, and you can pass that variable here in place of size and byte, or you can use the size of function. Okay, using that size of function, pass the data type, and automatically the memory is going to pick up the data type. From that, it is going to execute your size of function. Okay, and whatever value of your size of function is returning, that much amount of memory the malloc is going to assign, or say reserve in your memory block. But it will be a pointer. Okay, a pointer which is pointing at that reserved memory addresses, but the type of that pointer will be void, so that you have to typecast it. Typecast into which type? To the ptr pointer type. Okay, so that's why ptr type star. Okay, so that is typecasting. So this is a small program, okay, where I have taken roll number as 6. Okay, and integer star pointer, I have taken pointer variable, and in that pointer variable I am assigning the malloc. Okay, I am calling the malloc syntax. So see, malloc 6. Why 6? Because roll number array of size 6. So this is again in a way a static method. Okay, and integer star. Why integer star? Because the ptr data type is integer. Okay, so integer star malloc 6. So what happened? I want a roll number array of size 6. So it is going to assign this many blocks. Okay, so 12 by 2 into 6. This same thing is done by your malloc 6 here. Okay, it is going to assign a full 6 byte of block. Here it is 12 byte, 1 by 1. Okay, here it is going to assign one full chunk. So instead of this continuous memory here 1 by 1, a full chunk of 6 byte assigned by your malloc. Okay, integer star pointer, typecasting it. You can do it for 12 also. Okay, so depending upon your requirement. Okay, a 12 byte chunk. This is the memory addresses which I have given in a continuous manner. Okay, 2 bytes for each data type. Then you're going and executing this integer star malloc 12. So your pointer ptr is pointing towards your 100 here. Okay, which is the starting address of your full memory chunk. This is the example of malloc. Let's say you have taken integer I and pointer PTR. Okay, and this pointer PTR you are assigning size 12. What you are doing, you are scanning or say picking up some values from the user and incrementing your pointer accordingly. Okay, so when you go and execute this program, this PTR plus I, so what will be the output here? Let's say I've entered as 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay, so this PTR plus I is going to take up all those values, and one by one it is going to place here. Okay, and how it is going to know that it has to go this particular address 100? Because your pointer PTR is having memory address as 100. So from that starting address, you have to go and add till this. Okay, till the end. Clear? The explanation till here? No doubts, I suppose? Students, yes or no? Okay. In our next session, we shall continue with this dynamic memory allocation, and we shall see how you can go with the practical number 2. We have finished practical number 1. Okay, and we are keeping this session till here. Thank you all for attending this session.